That's the thing about stories. They never really end, do they? We're still telling the same stories we've always told, just with different names, different faces.
Who Goes There is a 1938 science fiction horror novella by John W Campbell Jr., a New Jersey native who's one of the granddaddies of modern science fiction. He was famous not only for writing Who Goes There and many other science fiction stories, but also for being an editor of science fiction magazines where he helped launch the careers of other great science fiction authors like Isaac Asimov, one of my favorites, and Arthur C. Clarke, among others. Highly influential science fiction horror story, which has been adapted many times in many different formats. I am only here to talk about the feature films, not some random Star Trek episodes that adapted some elements of the plot, or like a X-Files episode, or just other random stories or comic books or TV shows. I'm talking about feature films, and as far as I'm concerned, there were 4 main feature film adaptations of Who Goes There. You have the 1951 The Thing from Another Planet. You have the 1972 Horror Express, which was probably the loosest adaptation of this. 1982's John Carpenter's The Thing, which is a really good movie. I have never seen it before doing this, and I loved it. It was incredible. Then you have The Thing remake in 2011, which is, it's all right. So if you've never seen one of my Adaptation Showdowns before, welcome. I hope you enjoyed this. What I do in the Adaptation Showdowns is I read the original source text and I find the movies based on it, and I compare point by point, using a system that is totally non-scientific, not quantifiable, just things I realize as I'm reading the book, and I say, oh yeah, that movie did that movie didn't do that, well that one did. I give points and I see which is most accurate to the source text. One thing to keep in mind is that I am not saying which is the best movie. I'm not saying which is my favorite movie. I'll probably do that at the end once the Adaptation Showdown is done. All I'm doing here is having some fun seeing which movie follows this original book the closest. So without further ado, let's begin. Let's begin by talking about some basic facts about the story, the when and the where. Where does the story take place? In the original book, it takes place in Antarctica. I'm from New Jersey. We don't say T's here. The first 2 movies that are going to get a point is 1982, the John Carpenter Thing. It says right there in the opening credits, Antarctica. And the 2011 Thing remake is going to get a point. Thing from Another World will not get a point for where the movie takes place because it is not Antarctica. It is Anchorage, Alaska, as we can see on the sign outside the Officers Club here. That's another difference with this movie. They're not scientists, they're army guys. Horror Express takes place in China, specifically Provincia de Sichuan, China. It's a half Spanish, half British movie, so titles for the one I got were in Spanish. Another big difference for where the movie takes place for Horror Express is that most of the movie, like 90% of it, takes place on a train, on the Trans-Siberian Express. So, well, that's different. When does the story take place? The original book takes place in 1938. However, none of the movies take place in 1938. But the way I see it, this has been adapted so many different times that the story is just like a template. You could take the story, put it in your own time, and make your own version of The Thing, or Who Goes There, whatever. So the way I see it, the movies are going to get a point for being set in present day. This was written in 1938, took place in 1938. So which of these movies takes place at the time the movie was made and released? The only 2 movies that are going to get a point here is Thing from Another World, which came out in 1951, takes place in 1951, and it is a very 1950s post-World War II type of movie. We defeat the alien, go America. It had that whole kind of post-war message to it, very of its time. The other movie to get a point for this is 1982's The Thing, because see right there, the opening credits came out in 82. 1971's Horror Express actually took place in 1906, so that's not present day. And 2011's The Thing took place in 1982 as well, because it's a prequel to John Carpenter's 82 Thing. So, no point for them. Next points we're going to give out go for who is in this movie. What are the characters' names? The only movie that's going to get a point here is 1982's The Thing. So as you can see, I charted this out here for you. On the left are all the named characters in the original Thing book. The names highlighted in green are the ones that appear in 1982's The Thing. So 7 out of 15 of the names versus 0 out of 15 that all the other movies have. So I got to give this one the point for that. The ones in yellow on the right, those are new character names that they added for the 82 Thing movie. Next thing I want to give a point for, basic information about the story, is that in the original book, every character was a guy. This is a dude story. A bunch of dudes fighting a monster. Pretty cool. So the only movie to have an all-male cast is 1982's The Thing. Thing from Another World had several female characters, including this lady here who was integral to the plot, one of the main actors, and was the love interest of the main guy of the story. Horror Express had many female characters, and the Thing remake from 2011 was actually Mary Elizabeth Winstead, so she's a female. When you watch this, you can see they really modeled her character after Sigourney Weaver's Ripley from the original Alien movie. Next section, let's talk about the alien spaceship. Finding the alien spaceship is a big part of the plot. So, in the original book, how is the alien spaceship described? Luckily for this Adaptation Showdown, the story is so old that I just Googled this and put PDF after the name, and I was able to find the full text online. So I can actually have snippets of the text here to reinforce some of my points here. So let's see, how is the original spaceship described? The book says it was like a submarine without a conning tower or directive vanes, 280 feet long, 45 feet wide diameter at its thickest. Picture this submarine without the tower, without the directive vanes. So it's a really long cylindrical-like thing. Really smooth, probably dark in color. Looks like that without the towers and the fins and stuff. None of the movies are going to get a point for this because pretty much all of them depict it as a flying saucer. In fact, Thing from Another World clearly says it's a flying saucer.
We finally got one.
We found a flying saucer.
You know, and I guess it was the 50s, so flying saucers were in the public consciousness a lot then with the Roswell crash and all the sci-fi B-movie stories coming out. Flying saucers were a big thing, little green men from Mars and all that. 1982's The Thing, we actually see the alien spaceship flying towards Earth. It clearly is a flying saucer, like what we would typically think of a round disc-like spaceship. The Thing reboot from 2011, not exactly a flying saucer type. It's much bigger than that. In fact, she goes in and it's got these rotating orbs of power, whatever the hell that is. Either way, it's not going to get a point because it does not look like a submarine without the fins and stuff. Horror Express does not feature an alien spaceship, so no point for them. Next point I want to give about the alien spaceship was, did the ship crash a long time ago? As we can see in the original text, it's been frozen there ever since Antarctica froze 20 million years ago. There has never been a thaw there. None of these movies literally say 20 million years old, but very long time ago is what I'm looking for here. So John Carpenter's The Thing is going to get a point because they say...
How long you figure this has been in the ice?
I'd say the ice it's buried in is 100,000 years old, at least.
100,000, 20 million, whatever. Long time ago. Fine, close enough. The Thing reboot, which is the same story, it's a prequel to Carpenter's The Thing. They also say 100,000 years.
We estimate it's been here approximately 100,000 years.
In Horror Express, the Thing alien creature says,
I survived in protozoans, fish, vertebrates. The history of your planet is part of me.
He's been here a long time, so that's probably most accurate to the 20 million years, but we're giving a point to those three movies. The movie that we're not going to give a point to for this is Thing from Another World because that ship literally crashed hours ago.
Believe an airplane unusual type crashed in our vicinity. Please send facilities to investigate. Most urgent.
They tell the main group of guys in the story, they give them a report, they say, hey, we just got this report of an alien spaceship coming down and crashing, go check it out. So they saw this thing flying down a couple hours ago, which is not 20 million years. No point for them. Do the main group of people discover the alien spaceship? We're going to give a point to Thing from Another World because, yes, they do. They go out and they find the alien spaceship crashed in the ice. 1982's The Thing is also going to point because while they're not the first crew to discover it, they do go out and actually see the spaceship. The Thing reboot is going to get a point because in the John Carpenter's Thing timeline, they were the first crew to discover it, so they get a point there. Horror Express does not get a point because, like I said, there was no spaceship in that story. Next important thing regarding the alien spaceship in the story is they try and de-thaw it using thermite explosives. Now, I'm no explosives expert, but from what I remember on Mythbusters, thermite is very hot. Apparently, according to the original book, the thermite explosive reacted with the magnesium metal the ship was made out of, and the entire thing blew up, so they could never actually explore the ship and learn from it. They accidentally blew the whole thing up. So, whoops. So which movies accidentally blow up the alien spaceship? Let's see. The Thing from Another World is going to get a point because there we go. So in John Carpenter's The Thing, although we don't see the group in the present blowing up the ship with thermite, we do see that happening in this movie from the Norwegian team that they discovered from the videotapes left over from the Norwegians. So yeah, I'm going to give it to them because that is in the movie.
And those Norwegians blew it up.
Yeah.
So a weird thing regarding The Thing remake, reboot, whatever, is that in the 1982 Thing movie, they look at videotapes from the Norwegian team where they accidentally blow up the alien spaceship with thermite bombs. In the 2011 movie, which was supposed to be that videotape they were watching in the 1982 movie, we never see them do that. They don't blow it up. It's supposed to be a prequel, but they're not doing the thing that they showed here. Whatever. Next big important subject I want to talk about this story is the alien monster itself, only known as the Thing. The power, the ability that the Thing alien is most well known for is being a shapeshifter. It can mimic, it can clone, just like Ditto the Pokemon. It looks at people or eats them or kills them, and it can become them. It can look just like them and fool everyone around them, which is pretty cool and pretty creepy. So, which movies get a point for that? Horror Express, it's not exactly like that, but I'm going to give it a point. It does take over the bodies, and it fools people into not thinking that it's the alien. So yeah, it does shapeshift, it does jump around. I'll give that one a point. Fine. The 1982 Thing, yes, of course, obviously that's a huge part of the movie. That is going to get a point. The Thing remake, also going to get a point because that's the same monster. The Thing from Another World is not going to get a point because it's not a shape-shifting alien. It's an alien, but it's a vegetable alien. It's made out of vegetables. I think at some point they say it's like a super intellectual carrot, they describe it like, which is really weird. You have a really cool shape-shifting concept in the book. Why not go with that? They really just, I mean, it's probably for budget and special effects reasons at the time. They just get a really tall guy and put an alien suit on him and whatever. No point for them. So next, let's get onto the physical description of the Thing. None of the movies really accurately portray the Thing as it's described in the book. In the book, it goes through many different iterations. Obviously, it's a shape-shifting thing. It looks like different people, and its form is kind of amorphous. They suggest that there's a base original form of the Thing, and it kind of looked just like the Thing on the cover of my book there. It didn't say purple skin, but it does clearly say 3 evil red eyes and blue wiggly hair that moves around like worms. Those are some of the things that we're looking for in these movies. First, let's look at the 3 evil red eyes. Thing from Another World is not going to get a point. No red eyes. John Carpenter's The Thing goes through many different iterations, and I don't remember seeing any evil red glowing eyes. I mean, some of these are certainly frightening, but got no red eyes there. The Thing reboot goes through different iterations as well. No evil glowing red eyes. So surprisingly, the one to get a point for this is Horror Express, because that's one of the things about this monster. He has this like Medusa stare power, and he can take over you when he does his evil stare at you and makes your eyes glow red. So that's part of the creature's abilities, and we see a lot of red glowing eyes in that movie. Now, none of the things from the movies clearly have blue pasta spaghetti like worm wiggly hair like on the book cover here, but I'm looking for wiggly things, tentacles, like, those kind of things. So let's see. The Thing from Another World, not going to get a point because, once again, that's basically just a large man in an alien suit. Horror Express is not going to get a point because there's no wiggly things going on. John Carpenter's The Thing is going to get another point here because many different iterations of this thing, like in the dog scene, we see this wiggly pasta-like spaghetti stuff coming out of the dog. It's pretty scary. And we see another one with that dog. Yeah, we got a bunch of wiggly stuff there. In 2011 remake, yeah, look at that. We got some wiggly stuff there. It's got some loopy swoopy arms going on, so they get a point. One of the descriptions of the Thing from the book said, Kinner's arms had developed a queer, scaly fur, and the flesh had twisted. The fingers had shortened, the hand rounded. The fingernails became 3-inch long things of dull red horn, needed to steel-hard, razor-sharp talons. Okay, so we're looking for weird, scaly fur and sharp talon-like claws. So the only one that's going to get a point here is Horror Express, because as we can see, the original version of the Thing that they brought on the train with them has this weird scaly-like fur and these really long, sharp-looking talon fingernails. So that's going to get a point. So another one of the big aspects of the Thing alien from the original book is that not only does it shapeshift, but it also retains the memories and the thoughts of those things it shapeshifts into, which allows it to fool everyone around it because they can talk and act like that person that it mimicked, can fool them into thinking it's actually that person when it is in fact an alien. Uh-oh. 1982's The Thing is going to get a point for that. 2011's The Thing is going to get a point for that. Horror Express is also going to get a point here, and honestly, this is the weirdest version of that because they take one of the alien eyeballs from one of the victims. They look at it under a microscope and they see actual images of its memory.
It's the last thing the creature saw.
The creature's visual memory is located not in its brain, but in the eye itself.
They look harder and they go back in time and we just have images of dinosaurs.
It's a brontosaurus. A pterodactyl.
Which, I don't know how any of this works, but whatever, it's a movie. And then they go back even farther and they see the Thing's view of Earth, I guess, as it was approaching Earth.
It can only be the Earth, seen from space.
Which I guess is kind of crazy because to people in 1906, they've never seen an image of the Earth before from outer space, you know? We didn't go to space then, so it's kind of cool. The Thing from Another Planet is not going to get a point because, like I said, it doesn't shapeshift and it's just a big dude in an alien suit. So for the next section, let's get onto the story beats and the plot points of the original book and how they're portrayed in the movies. So first off, how do they find the Thing? How do they find the alien? Well, in the original book, they're out exploring. They find the alien spaceship buried in the ice. Like I said, they accidentally blow it up. But near the spaceship, they find the body of the Thing frozen in ice. Its home planet is a lot warmer, so it really couldn't last long in Antarctica. Not dead, but dormant from all the cold, and it just froze. That's how it happened. They found it frozen in the ice. The Thing from Another World is going to get a point because that's exactly how they found it, frozen in the ice. Horror Express is going to get a point because he found it frozen in ice. The Thing remake is going to get a point because they actually found the Thing frozen in ice. Okay. Now, John Carpenter's The Thing, I wanted to give it a point, but the key difference here is that it's not that group of scientists in the present finding it. It was the previous group of scientists who we see in the Thing remake when they see it on the videotapes and the wreckage of their campsite. That crew found the Thing. It wasn't the Kurt Russell team here. They found the destruction that the Thing caused, but they did not ultimately find the Thing in that story. It's not exactly the same. No point for them. So the next story beat is, did they bring the Thing alien back to their base in a big chunk of ice? They carved it out of the ice and dragged it back to the base. Thing from Another World is going to get a point because we clearly see them bringing it back in a giant ice cube. In the Horror Express, we don't clearly see a block of ice, but it's implied that the Thing is frozen in ice and they put it in this box and then they bring it back. So yeah, they're carrying it back frozen. The Thing remake is going to get another point because we actually see them carrying it back in a large chunk of ice. John Carpenter's The Thing is not going to get a point because, like I mentioned in the previous point, they were not actually the ones who found the Thing, so they did not bring it back to their base in a chunk of ice. Next story beat I want to talk about is the Thing in the block of ice thawing. The Thing from Another World is going to get a point for this because it thaws from the block of ice, clearly, and this is the funniest version to me because the guy who's assigned to watch it gets creeped out too much from having this alien in a block of ice. He doesn't want to look at it, so he puts this blanket over it to hide it, but it's an electric blanket and it's plugged in, and he didn't know it was plugged in, so whoops, it melts the ice. Horror Express is going to get a point too because, like I said, it's implied that the Thing is frozen in chunks of ice inside that box. They bring it onto the train where it then thaws. John Carpenter's The Thing, they did not find it in ice, so they're not going to get the point. It was the previous team, the Norwegians, who we see in the Thing reboot, brought it back in a large chunk of ice. However, they're not going to get a point because while the giant chunk of ice is sitting there, this is the most ridiculous to me. The alien doesn't thaw, it just boom, it just bursts out. So I don't know why it was dormant and asleep in that chunk of ice when they brought it back, because it seems like it could have burst out at any time. It didn't need to thaw to reawaken. Maybe that's a plot hole. I don't know. Wasn't the best of the four movies. Yeah, this is the only one where the alien doesn't thaw. It just bursts right out of that ice block, which is kind of funny to me. Next story beat I want to talk about is one of the first things that the Thing absorbs and assimilates into is one of their dogs, one of the husky dogs down in Antarctica for the science team that they have. So the only movie to have the first thing in that movie have been absorbed by the Thing is a Dog is 1982's The Thing. Having this movie called The Thing is kind of hard to talk about things in the movie and just keep saying thing here. But 1982's The Thing is the only one that's going to get a point here for me because the dog is the first thing that is a thing in the movie. Regardless of whether or not the first thing that is a thing is a dog in the story, is there a scene where the dog thing attacks the other dogs at the campsite, and then the other guys have to come in and fight the alien/dog hybrid thing and fight it and save some of the other dogs? So in Thing from Another World, even though it doesn't shapeshift and absorb other creatures, we do get a scene of one of the first things it does after it thaws is go out and attack the dogs, and they have to go out and fight it. So it's going to get a point there. John Carpenter's The Thing is going to get another point because I think of all the movies, this is the one that most closely follows the story beat of the book as far as the dog thing fight scene goes. Another big story beat of the book is one of the characters, he starts going crazy, getting really paranoid, and they have no other choice but to quarantine him far away from the main base because he's annoying to be around. Do they quarantine a crazy member of the crew? The only movie to get a point for this in 1982's The Thing because Wilford Brimley, Mr. Diabetus over here.
Diabetes.
The diabetes drives him mad and he starts going crazy, beating everything up, so they have to sedate him and bring him off to his own little shack where they give him a nice bottle of Smirnoff to keep him company. So in the original story, every part of the Thing alien acts as one, kind of like a hive mind for that one alien creature, even down to the blood. So they do a test where they take blood samples from everybody and a heated copper wire and they dip it in, and if it's normal human blood, nothing happens. A hot wire touches blood, end of story right there. Taking a really hot wire touching the blood of the alien is the same as just touching the skin on the assimilated person of the alien. It acts as one thing, like one gelatinous thing. It's basically like Jell-O. This whole story is about Jell-O. So what movies show a blood test scene? Well, The Thing from Another World does have a test involving blood, but it's not at all like the story. Like I said, The Thing is kind of like a vampire vegetable, which is even weirder because it feeds on blood, human or dog or whatever. They use spores from the Thing to grow these other plants, and then they use blood from their blood bank to water it down into the plants. It doesn't make any sense. So no point for them. The Horror Express also has a testing scene, but it has nothing to do with blood. The monster from this story attacks people, takes them over through their eyes, through eye contact. So instead of blood, they're checking everyone's eyeballs. The Thing reboot, I'm going to give them credit here because this is clever. I like this, but they're not going to get a point. The interesting thing they add to the story is that when the alien takes over a person, it can only assimilate and clone organic matter. So, like for example, if you had fake teeth or cavity fillings, it couldn't mimic that. If you have a bad tooth or a fake tooth or a giant filling in there, you're not an alien because the alien could not have mimicked that. I think that's kind of clever. Not exactly like the original book. You get a point for originality. Also, but then you get someone like me, like I've never really had a filling, so they would think I was an alien, which isn't really fair. I mean, come on. Dental hygiene's important. John Carpenter's Thing is going to get the point here because this is basically done just like in the book. It is a very scary and tense scene and one of the coolest in the movie. Next story beat I want to talk about is the general atmosphere of suspicion and paranoia that grows throughout the story of all the members on the base. They don't know who's human or who's an alien. So, what movies feature suspicion and paranoia? The Thing from Another World really does not have this as part of the story. The Thing does not shapeshift, so they clearly know who's human. There's no question about that. So all the other movies are going to get a point. Like Horror Express has scenes where they're going mad trying to figure out who it is.
Who are the killers? Who are the troublemakers? Who are the foreign influences, huh?
John Carpenter's The Thing probably does this the best, I'd say.
Somebody could have lifted it off me.
Oh, come on. That key ring of yours is always hooked to your belt.
How did everybody get through it?
Accusing everybody.
The Thing reboot also has scenes of suspicion and paranoia.
You were the last one.
Are you accusing me?
He's got something to hide.
What are you, an asshole? I was the one working on the test. I left for 2 minutes!
Yes. You just don't want us to know the truth.
Next story beat I want to talk about is do they later go and check on the crazy guy they had to quarantine In the book, they do. After the big blood test scene, they go and check on the character that they quarantined earlier in the story. The only movie that's going to get a point for this is John Carpenter's The Thing. They go out and check on Mr. Diabetes out in the shack.
Diabetes.
And see how he's doing. And, well, we'll get to how he's doing later, but they get a point.
We're going out to give Blair the test. If he tries to make it back here and we're not with him, burn him.
Next story beat is when they go to the shack and check on the quarantined guy, is he a human or did he go full thing? In John Carpenter's The Thing, Mr. Diabetes went full thing. He's no longer a human. Oh, he became a big monster. So he's going to get a point. It's like the big boss battle of the story right there. Did that version of The Thing start working on its own alien technology? In the original book, yes, it did. I thought it was a little ridiculous. It used coffee cans and parts from a radio to build an anti-gravity machine and parts of a spaceship. How you do that, I have no idea. It figured it out in the book. It's pretty... Aliens know more than we do, I suppose. The only movie to get a point for this is John Carpenter's The Thing, because beneath the shack where they isolated Mr. Diabetes, he was building an alien spaceship. Did the Thing want to escape? In the original book, yes, that's why it was building that alien technology. It was trying to build some kind of spacecraft or whatever so it could get out of Antarctica. John Carpenter's The Thing is going to get a point for this.
Where was he trying to go? Any place but here.
Horror Express, even though there is no alien spaceship and we don't see him trying to build an alien spaceship, this version of The Thing does want to get away.
What am I to do with you?
Let me go.
That's not possible.
It is possible.
Next story beat I want to talk about is, in the end, do the good guys win? Do they defeat the Thing? Do they kill it? In The Thing from Another World, they do. Down this corridor, it's walking, and they have these electrical things, and it triggers the trap and just kind of gets shocked to death. Horror Express is going to get a point here because this whole movie takes place on a train. They end up ultimately killing it. They do this thing where they divert the train tracks and send it right off a cliff. John Carpenter's The Thing is going to get a point because, yes, they defeat the really big thing monster that was under Mr. Diabetes' shack. And this is one of my favorite one-liner finishers from an action movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, fuck you too!
The Thing remake is not going to get a point for defeating the Thing because in this movie they do not defeat the Thing because this is a prequel to John Carpenter's The Thing. If they defeated it, John Carpenter's movie would not have happened in that same story universe. One thing that I think is kind of cool about this is that this movie ends with the last thing the Thing assimilated into was their dog. The dog starts to escape. It's not really a dog, it's the alien, obviously. They're trying to shoot it and kill it. That leads right into the beginning of John Carpenter's The Thing, where we see this guy in a helicopter trying to shoot this dog. And at first you're like, hey, why are you shooting at a dog? But having seen the remake, it kind of kills that mystery. Did the story have an ominous ending? In the original book, yes, it did. I thought it did. So before they go and do the big boss battle with the Thing from the crazy character that was isolated in that shack, before they entered the shack, they saw a bird. And they said, could that be a thing? I don't know. Let's shoot it anyway, just to be sure, so it doesn't escape, you know? In the book, it says he hit the bird. The bird didn't just stop. He saw some feathers, maybe saw some blood, but the bird kept going. So I don't know if it was like a really clean hit. If that was an alien thing monster, it's probably going to keep going. And the book ends with them saying, what about that bird? Left a little open-ended. Which movies have an ominous ending? The Thing from Another World does not. It's a very heroic, rah-rah, go USA kind of movie. They defeat the alien, and that's it. Horror Express also has a very conclusive, definitive ending. The Thing falls off a cliff in a train car, burns to death, and then just zooms out and says, fiend. 1982's The Thing, I'm going to give this a point here. It does have an ominous, suspenseful kind of ending because we're left with these two characters here. Neither can really trust the other if they're a thing or not, but either way, they're just kind of stranded here and probably going to die in the cold. So they're sharing a bottle of whiskey, and maybe one of them's going to turn into a thing. Maybe they won't. We don't know. So it's a little open-ended there. And obviously The Thing remake is going to get a point for an ominous kind of ending because it ends with the Thing escaping in the form of a dog, leading into the 1982 movie. Next section, I want to talk about some of the little details throughout the story that I jotted down while reading the original book. First one of these is, do they fight the Thing with fire? In John Carpenter's The Thing, they're going to get a point because yes, they use fire a lot. In the 2011 remake, they also use fire. Horror Express is not going to get a point. I mean, I guess it falls off a cliff and then burns, but so it's probably dead already before the fire. I don't know. They don't use fire throughout the movie, so that's yeah, all right. Thing from Another World is going to get a point for the use of fire to fight the Thing. And honestly, of all the 4 movies, this is one of the craziest scenes. They're thinking of what to do. They're in this lab trying to make a plan. And then all of a sudden, lights go out and the Thing bursts in. It was kind of shocking watching this in 2024. I can't imagine how crazy this was watching this in 1951 if you've never seen anything like this. A little bit of movie trivia I found just, reading Wikipedia or whatever, was that apparently this was one of the first uses in a movie of a full body fire protection suit. And it's really cool. So getting more specific than just fire, in the original book, they used a blowtorch. None of the movies really show a blowtorch, but we get flamethrowers. I mean, they're kind of basically the same thing. They shoot fire, they burn things at a distance. Whatever, flamethrower, blowtorch, whatever. We're going to give a point for something like that. So John Carpenter's The Thing is going to get a point for the use of blowtorch, and so is the Thing remake from 2011. Another little detail from the book that I thought was pretty interesting but was not really expanded upon or touched on in any of the other movies to a great extent was the fact that, and I'll put the quote up here, was the fact that when they found the original ship, they say that they saw 3 other shadow things down in the ice that might have been other passengers on the ship. The Thing alien in the original story looks like it wasn't the only alien on that spaceship. The only movie that's going to get a point for this is Horror Express, because, he says,
I came with others like myself. I was left behind. An accident.
Another little detail from the original story is that as suspicion and paranoia grows and they realize that the Thing can absorb organic matter, they decide that for safety they should only eat food out of cans. Only movie to get a point for this is John Carpenter's The Thing, because this guy mentions,
and everyone should prepare their own meals, and I suggest we only eat out of cans.
Another little detail in the book is that they use rope to help not get lost in the blizzard when they go outside. This is Antarctica, it's very cold, a lot of storms there, a lot of blizzards going on all the time, so the teams, for safety, they have rope tied to the main camp, so as you can go out, you hold onto the rope, you don't get lost. The only movie to show that was John Carpenter's The Thing. So I think it's safe to announce a winner at this point, and it should be no surprise that it is 1982's The Thing by John Carpenter.
Fuck you too!
Diabetes.
So the next section I want to talk about is some interesting details that were in the book, but not in any of these 4 movies. So the first one, and this is a big one, is that the Thing in this book had mental powers. It had telekinesis abilities. It could project thoughts and nightmares and control minds. That was not in any of the movies. I'm going to put up some screenshots from the text. If you want to pause this at any time, just so you can read this, go for it. But we're going to move on to the next point, which is the blood test scene in the original book did not reveal just 1 or 2 people. They said in the end, once the blood test was done, it revealed 14 versions of the Thing. 14 people that the Thing took over were found out by the blood test. Another thing that was in the book that wasn't in any of the movies was the fact that the opening scene of the book starts with MacReady, who's the main guy, telling everyone the story of how they just went out and found the Thing and brought it back. It's kind of like a flashback. He's saying, hey, this is what we did. We went out there, we found this thing, we brought it back. It doesn't take place in the present. It's like a little flashback story he's telling them. None of the movies show it exactly like that. Another little nitpick kind of detail was that in the original book, MacReady was a meteorologist, whereas I think in John Carpenter's The Thing, he was the helicopter pilot. Another little detail that was only in the book was that they had other animals at the campsite besides just the dogs. In fact, they had more dogs. They said they had 70 dogs down there, also 4 cows and a bull. Another detail that was in the book that wasn't shown in any of the movies was that one of the characters who gets taken over by a Thing, but they don't know it yet, he's going mad. He's shouting prayers and hymns and pleas to God to help everyone. That wasn't shown in any of the movies. This is interesting because it has to do with the alien's ability to retain its victims' memories, because the alien hasn't read the Bible and knows prayers and hymns from Christianity. That's the guy it absorbed. So the alien is using his brain to shout stuff, which is kind of cool. They describe the shack the guy was quarantined in was 3/4 of an hour away, like on a ski trip. They got on their skis and skied for 45 minutes away. That's how far they quarantined him. In John Carpenter's Thing, it looks like it was just a couple-minute walk across the base. So it was a lot farther in the original book. As I was watching these 4 movies, I picked out some great quotes. Some of my favorite quotes of these included...
Sorry, we already pulled one boner out there in the ice.
We already pulled one boner out there in the ice. Oh my God. I'm guessing boner used to mean a mistake, an accident, a whoopsie. And the boner that this guy is referring to is when they accidentally blew up the ship with their thermite bomb. Keep focused, boys. There's an alien on the loose. We don't need to pop any more boners tonight.
Hey, what's up? Looks like a lynching party. Any visitors?
This guy was way too excited when he thought this was a lynching party.
The Eskimos have a weakness for our strawberries.
The Eskimos have a weakness for our strawberries. Never thought I'd hear that sentence. So at one point, the Vladimir Lenin-looking scientist dude started to sympathize with the thing from another world, goes over and tries to reason with it as it's trying to kill everyone. And, that went over like a lead balloon.
Your enemy, I'm a scientist. I'm a scientist who's trying...
Backhands this guy across the floor there. Now on to some great quotes from the Horror Express.
General Wang told me to find you.
General Wang. I like that.
What is in there, Excellency?
Fossils.
What is a fossil?
You wanna know what a fossil is? What? I absolutely love this line from Peter Cushing here. He just delivers it with all the passion he can.
Are you telling me that an ape that lived 2 million years ago got onto that crate, killed the baggage man and put him in there, then locked everything up neat and tidy and got away?
Yes, I am!
One thing I learned while doing the research for this Adaptation Showdown was that John Carpenter, who directed 1982's The Thing, one of his favorite movies was The Thing from Another World from 1951. When you put them side by side, so the left here is the videotape that the crew is watching from the Norwegian team. They set that shot up to really closely resemble what it looked like when they found the spaceship in the ice in the 1950s movie. Thought that was pretty interesting. Even the way it explodes, it kind of looks the same. Speaking of the explosion, I like this little detail here, how all the humans get down when it explodes, but clearly it's just a movie. They didn't actually blow up an alien spaceship because none of the dogs are alarmed at all. The dogs are just hanging out and the humans are all, acting, obviously. In the 50s version, they mention having a blood bank on base. In the original book, they do not mention having a blood bank.
I saturated the Earth with 2 units of plasma taken from our blood bank.
And the only movie to show the base having a blood bank was 1980's The Thing. Another little John Carpenter tie-in here was that in his other famous movie, 1978's Halloween, there's this one scene where we see this kid watching TV, and guess what movie they're watching? They're watching The Thing from Another Planet. That's pretty cool. In conclusion, do I recommend reading the original book? Yes, I do. I really enjoyed it. It was cool. It was creepy. And it was way ahead of its time. It was suspenseful. It was scary. It had good sci-fi elements that you don't see much back in 1938. This story is still being talked about, still being adapted and remade. It has a lot of staying power. It's a classic for a reason. And it's only 88 pages, so won't take you too long to read it. Which movie did I think was the best? So if I were to rank these, John Carpenter's The Thing, number 1 for me. I really liked it. Can't believe I haven't seen it before doing this Adaptation Showdown. I've known that it was a classic. Now I get why. I really enjoyed it. Soundtrack by Ennio Morricone, really good. Horror, sci-fi movie. If you've never seen it, go check it out. My second favorite movie of these 4, I'd probably say was Horror Express. It differs the most from the source material in that it takes place mostly on a train back in 1906, and the alien's not a physical alien, but an entity of energy that jumps from different people, like using their bodies like shells. I just enjoyed it. It had this real campy 70s B-movie kind of feel, and you got Christopher Lee, you got Peter Cushing. It was good. It's just kind of a fun... It wasn't actually scary and suspenseful to me, but it's a fun ride. I really enjoyed it. For the third place, I would put The Thing from Another World. This was a great example of a 1950s horror, sci-fi, classic monster, alien kind of story. Good guys win in the end. I liked it. It just felt like such a classic 50s sci-fi kind of movie. And in fourth place, I would put The Thing Reboot. It wasn't bad. There were parts of it I liked. There were parts that were scary. But it's crazy. When you compare this to the 3 other movies from 3 different decades, you can really see how filmmaking changed. This was 2011. They were doing a lot of that action movie shaky cam stuff. They were doing a lot more quicker cuts. It's a prequel to the 80s thing, but it's basically the same exact story. It pretty much follows the same beat for beats of this plot line. And we already know what happened to the Norwegian science team from the 80s thing. The whole time I'm watching this, I just keep thinking, why'd they even make the movie? You know, it's clearly just to cash in on the thing. I mean, why not tell a modern version of it where they have modern technology? You could work that in somehow. I don't know. That's about all I've got for today. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you very much. I appreciate it as always, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.